Dude, you can't see me. It'd help if you can see me. Hey there, man.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Late, technical difficulties, all this stuff going. Is this the way to kick off oaf?
In a very oafish manner. Yeah. Well, I guess it's more sloppy than oafish, or are they the same thing? I'm not sure. What do you think?
Sloppy open. Sloppy open. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how's life, liberty, pursuit of, dude?
Yeah, life is good. I don't know what happened actually. It was so I sent you that that link from my phone, and then when I log into my computer, I go to my scheduled meetings. There's nothing there. And so I don't know if it's because I have to schedule it from my computer. That doesn't make sense though. It should just be there.
Yeah, it's strange too, because you do it through Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens normally when I get Zoom into my, like I told you with my Gmail, it pops up on my Gmail. It never does when you do it. I have to go to the email, I have to cut and paste, all this kind of stuff. It's so strange. That's so weird, dude. I don't know what your issue is.
Hey, you said it's my issue.
I totally know it's
How
your issue,
dare
dude,
you?
because my data points, my empirical data points of my world show that it's
Typical
you.
Yank blaming everybody else in the world. Like,
That's
oh,
it, man.
it's your problem, dude.
I'm trying to be like the younger generation, right? I'm trying to be like most of America, and it's not my personal responsibility.
So what were you drinking there? Is that iced tea? Is that what you have?
No, this is so one of the things I did is I got off of drinking. I used to drink a lot of tea, green tea and other teas like that. But I'm getting off of caffeine, and now I'm drinking warm water with lemon squished in it ever so often. And the funny thing about it is that it actually helps you stay regular, by the way. And not that that's a little TMI there, but then it was funny because I was talking to somebody from Turkey, and they were like, oh yeah, we've known that for like decades, you know, or centuries or whatever, doing it. So anyway, so that's been good. And I think that's helped my sleeping as well. You know, I think sleep is the big key. A lot of people, like when you're younger, say sleep is overrated. It's not.
No,
I think it's probably the crux
it's
of
definitely
everything.
not. So sleep is amazing. And you know, if I get 8 hours, guaranteed I remember my dreams.
Oh yeah. That's the other thing. You're right. If you can have a good sleep, you'll remember dreams. I don't remember all of them, but I remember some of them. So if you're not, you know, it's interesting. When I was in like the throngs of like corporate executive life, I went years without dreaming. And then when I got away from that, or separated from it for a time being, now I'm dreaming, you know, and it's there's something to be said for that, because I think that's like, you know, one of those health indicators. I think if you're not dreaming, then your sleep isn't good or something. And if your sleep isn't good, your cortisone values go up, your stress goes up, all your health stuff goes down.
Yeah, my what was I gonna say? Jeez, man, I just lost it. But anyway, it's because I was thinking of this other thing.
That was like the major point of life, man. I mean, that moment was like what was going to just completely like epiphany. You know, the skies opening and the sun rain down on you.
Second coming of the Lord, like
exactly. You know. It would have been the answer, right? And then you know, it's like, was it like Sean Connery? I found the cure to cancer, but I lost it, or something like that. Remember that line in that?
Oh man. So speaking of dreams, this is really strange because it's never happened to me before. I'm not going to say anything rude, but basically it's never happened to me before, but this happened in my dream last week. So I dreamt that Jesus Christ was there in my dream. Did I tell you this story?
No.
And I was like blown away by it and really kind of moved by it, because I've never ever dreamt of Jesus before. And he was there, and he was talking to my mum in my dream in a bar. So he wasn't talking
in a bar.
To me. Yeah, in a bar, yeah.
Okay, so this is going on does this sound like a Netflix Black Mirror version or something?
So he was there, like typical sort of version of what you would expect sort of Western Jesus to look like. with the
It's
white.
always odd too, right? That it's a
Yeah,
Western Jesus, because I mean, Jesus was probably dark skinned,
yeah,
Middle Eastern dude.
yeah. But I guess it isn't Jesus like when whenever you wherever you're from in the world, you have your own version of Jesus. So like there's Korean Jesus, there's Jamaican Jesus,
I would
there's
hope that's the case. I would hope that's the case, but I'm not sure. Is that like Santa? Is there like, different
well, yeah,
versions
but
of
I've
Santa as well?
seen pictures on Google Images of like Korean
Really?
Jesus.
But
Yeah,
is that like more recent? Because that
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
the way it
yeah,
was. And basically it isn't Christianity, it was crusaded or
yeah,
missioned, right? And so they went in there and they basically said, this is it and this is what it looks like, which
yeah.
which was like probably really bad product marketing, because you gotta connect with your audience. And so if you had like a Korean Jesus or something
Well,
like that, probably makes more sense.
for whatever reason, Korean Jesus is absolutely ripped. Like he's like shredded. Like I'm not just talking, like normal Western Jesus on the crucifix has got a six pack. I'm
Uh-huh.
talking Korean Jesus looks like he could bend Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. Like he looks like the Hulk.
Oh
Like
my God, that is
he's yeah,
hilarious.
he's a
Well,
tank
one
on the
thing that's
cross.
interesting about that. So when I did a lot of business travel, one of the best places to work out in Asia was Korea. They were really
Hmm.
into working out, whereas Japan, nothing. Europe, not much. I mean, you go to like,
Yeah.
hotels in Europe, they don't usually have a gym, or it's really crappy. But that's one part of it. The second part is, I think the Western Jesus is ripped because isn't he on the cross like starved? I mean, I think that's not,
Yeah, I
I don't
think
think
didn't
that's like
he
a healthy ripped. I don't think, right?
but I mean he did a lot of walking and he was
Mhm.
a fisherman, so he had a steady supply of healthy protein.
So he's a strong
Um
guy.
yeah, and he
And he
was
would have been strong too, because I think that's a tough job.
yeah, and potentially a carpenter.
He was a carpenter, right? Yeah. So he's,
I
yeah.
guess. I definitely Joseph was a carpenter. So perhaps Jesus was a carpenter as well, following in his footsteps. There was some sort of yeah. So that's quite a physical role as well, and it was really
Interesting.
hot as well over
So
there. So
what was, yeah, yeah. So what was, which is probably why he wasn't some white dude. Um, what was it that Jesus was talking to your mom about?
yeah, so he was there talking to my mum
Having a
or my
drink,
mom.
or was this
Well, they were sat at like a very small round like typical bar table in a dank kind of bar. And then I went round the corner and I said to these guys at the bar, I said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "Jesus is round there." And they went, "What? Jesus isn't real." And I was like, "No, no, he is. He's round there. Just look." And they were like, "Nah, get out of here." Like they started throwing things at me. And I was like, "No, seriously." And then I went round because Jesus like heard the ruckus. And I went over to apologize on their behalf. Like I was like, don't listen to them guys, they don't know anything. And as I went over, I looked into his face. He turned up like and looked in my face, and then I looked at him for like a good long moment, and he just looked up at me. He didn't say anything, and he looked like he was made out of porcelain. Like
Mm,
really shiny, like almost
mhm,
like he was a statue. But
mm.
around the statue, just around the very edges of it, it was like a rainbow. And I looked, and
Oh,
I was like, oh shit, this is the real deal. And then I woke up and I was like, whoa, I just saw Jesus in my dream.
and he was a real deal, and he had like the LGBT
Yeah,
rainbow thing coming off him.
yeah, yeah. But it was, yeah, like
What's your
LGBT.
takeaway, man? What's your, because you had this
What's my
dream, you got it.
takeaway?
What's your takeaway?
Um,
There's got to have some meaning, right? Something that's,
yeah.
if you actually listened to it and followed through with it, it probably would change your life.
Well, I did a little bit of research and I read what dreams of Jesus mean. And generally, always, 100% is always a really, really good sign. It
Oh,
always,
nice.
whatever I read, it said, your life is going in exactly the direction that it's meant to, that you want it to. But if you have dreams of talking with Jesus, that's generally a dream about forgiveness. Now
Oh,
he didn't say anything to me. He was talking
well,
to
so no
my mom.
forgiveness. See, that's down the. You didn't hit that one. You didn't check
Yeah,
off that box.
no, no, but he was talking to my mother, and I think the dream was
Oh,
about
there's where.
yeah, I think the dream was about me forgiving her.
Ah, so
Yeah.
mom still alive?
Yeah, she's still alive. She lives in Ireland.
I see. So you got to get
But
on the
she
phone and do some forgetting.
yeah. No, I think what it is that I recently came to the realization that, any sort of bad feeling or grudge or any sort of, lack of trust or anything that I had has gone away now. And I think that's what that dream was about.
Interesting.
My mum left when I was super young, and
I
I,
see.
I didn't see her for like almost 3 decades into the line. Yeah.
Wow. That's
So,
some leaving.
yeah.
So that was your mom. What about your mom?
Yeah. Same woman.
So snarky for Americans, man. Well, they just took your language and did what we
I
wanted with
know.
it,
How
and then
dare
that
you?
became
Like,
the
you
default. Hey,
walk on the
speaking of dreams,
sidewalk or the pavement you grew up in,
speaking of
and
dreams, oh yeah, exactly. Speaking of dreams, by the way, I think it was yesterday was Stevie Nicks' 76th birthday.
whoa, that's
That's
pretty
weird to me
old.
because, this is where there's certain things that happen where, like Ray Liotta passed away at 67,
Man,
right?
yeah,
But
I
it's
know.
just, it's weird when you, different things about that. One is these type of things, like when you grew up, I have a great Stevie Nicks story, by the way. Not that great, but I used to work in the Marina Del Rey boys market. It was interesting. It was a supermarket. It was the job to get, by the way, back in that time, because Boxwood was a union job. You got paid. It was great. Sundays were time and a half. Holidays were like 3 times, whatever. Great job. Very hard sought out job, kind of like Fang back in the day, Fang jobs. But at any rate, I got that, and the Marina Del Rey was really interesting because um, it had a lot of people would have like apartments or yachts there, right? So a lot of like
Mm.
well-known people, and in fact, it was considered they had a television news show it was one of the top 10 places in LA on a Friday night to get a date, because people would be all dressed up and all, et cetera. Anyway, long story short, I was, of course, like everybody back in the time, this was in the Fleetwood Mac days, the original Fleetwood Mac days. Stevie Nicks came through my line. Of course, I dug hers, right? So she wrote a check, and so I actually, this is it's gonna sound like a pre-stalker type thing, but it didn't turn out that way. So anyway, she wrote a check, right? Because back in the day, people just wrote checks, right? And so I knew where she lived. So my plan was to take my cat, throw it into her backyard, and then knock on her door and said, "Hey, I think my cat went in there," and she would see me, we'd fall in love, and everything would be happy ever after. Well, I never had the nerve, thankfully, to actually throw my cat in the backyard, but that's my Stevie Nicks story. So
Whoa.
anyway, so she's 76 now, and I'm like, my conception, because you have this imprint of your life of these effects, whether it's music or whatever, right? The music in many ways, right? That shapes kind of your generational, coming of age, growing up,
Yeah.
going through things, right? And the fact that she's 76 now is just like impossible for me to like fathom. And then, you know, so that's one piece. And then you start doing the math, right? You're thinking, okay, so she's 76, and that's only, or like Ray Liotta,
Mm.
67. That's like,
Yeah.
8 years from now for me. And you just start all of a sudden, you don't get this when you're growing up. When you're young, you're
Yeah.
immortal, and there's a long span, right? Of course, anything can happen, but it's just weird. It's, what I'm saying. It's like these things that happen, you know.
The
Um,
the one for me is like Schwarzenegger is in his 70s, and when Schwarzenegger dies, I'm probably gonna have to take a week off work just to kind of get over it. It's I honestly, it's
because
gonna.
you guys are like this,
Well,
man,
then in
buddies,
in in
man.
in my mind, it's like, you ever seen Jojo Rabbit and the kid is like friends with Hitler? It's like I'm I'm friends with Schwarzenegger in my mind. Like, he's my dad. Like,
Got it.
he's my father figure,
He
my
gave you what
hero.
your mom didn't give you.
Yeah, and that my dad didn't give me. All my dad gave me was beatings. Like, Schwarzenegger
Oh
gave me inspiration.
no. So how did you become such a nice guy with this like crappy upbringing?
I don't
I
know. I don't
mean,
know.
and you
There's
got kids, right? And you have a
yeah,
wife and everything's
yeah,
on, and everybody's
yeah,
good, and you're a good
yeah.
dad,
A wife
right?
and two kids. Yeah, everything's super happy, and
See that? Just
yeah,
breaking the
yeah.
cycle, man.
I had to, and it's one hell of a cycle as well. You know, I did some like genealogy, ancestry research, and wow,
So what
it's
connection to Hitler did you have?
it's spectacular. No, I didn't have any connection with Uncle Dolph. Um, bless him. Um,
Uncle Dolph.
yeah, I no connection with him, but wow, my yeah, very very dark family history. I don't know. I don't want to like darken the mood because like I love seeing you on a Friday, and I don't want to darken it, but like also I kind of want to
We went
give
from
you.
Jesus to Dolph in a short period of time. And meanwhile, I was bringing up, so speaking of Fleetwood Mac, right? So I actually saw them live. And this was back on the Rumors album, right? You know the whole story. Like, Lindsey
Mm,
Buckingham was dating Stevie Nicks and they broke up. And then Christine McVie and what was the husband's name? Johnny McVie or something? The bass player, right? They broke up, right? And then of course Mick was in the matter having affairs with all of them, right? At any rate, so that concert was amazing because like that the song The Chain, right? Where like,
yeah,
if you don't love me now, you never let me again. So you have here, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, and they're literally like just looking at each other, singing these words, like, and if you don't love me now, and it's just like this, oh my God, this is freaking crazy, right? So I went to like that. I was in a good place with you, and then you just went down the dark road with your,
yeah.
bringing
Let's try and bring it back. Let's bring it back. We'll save the dark stories for another time.
Okay, so speaking of dark stories, let's talk
But
about the shootings.
yeah, well, I mean, Ray Liotta, that was a shock. Like, not like
Uh,
it wasn't like
mm,
upsetting, but like I saw it and I was like, I was in disbelief. I was like, what? Like, really, Ray Liotta? So
so
I
I
can
have a
only
story about
imagine.
that I have a Ray Liotta, not him directly, but
Do you say
he
Ray
played
Liotta or Ray
Ray
Liotta?
Liotta.
Ray Liotta.
Oh, I don't know. It's your language, man. You pick it out. You figure it out.
I think it's Liotta, Ray Liotta,
Liotta, really? We should say
or
Liotta. Well,
Liotta.
I don't know. I'm not that great with names anyway.
Raymond. We'll call him
I'm not
Raymond.
really good with names, Sam. So don't worry about it.
That's okay. You know,
So, anyway, so here's a true story. So when I got out of the university, I worked in middle management in a hospital, and the hospital was actually a rehabilitation center, mental kind of ward. And guess who came in incognito? We had to keep it shushed. Was this guy named Henry Hill? His
oh,
name was
okay.
actually, when he came in, is Martin something. I can't remember. And so Henry
Mm,
Hill is the one that the basis of the Goodfellas is on.
yeah.
And actually they were shooting it or something. They were writing a book or something. I can't remember at that time. But anyway, he was a freaking interesting character. So I actually met him, Henry Hill. We
Wow.
weren't allowed to call him. We didn't actually know his name as that. It was Martin something. I can't remember. And he was always like, oh, the FBI called. We got to get out of here because they were on witness protection, right? So him
Yeah.
and his girlfriend, wife, or whatever. I remember he like went down the street and bought a used car from a gas station, took off, something like that. At any rate, probably should have probably had a picture of me. I probably don't have it anymore. If I had a picture of me with him ages ago, that would have been worth something.
What a
At any rate,
fascinating story of
I know I have a
Henry
lot of
Hill's
fascination. So
like,
this is what happens
yeah.
when you're, born and raised in LA. It's like
But
everybody's,
yeah,
bound to run into people.
but like his story as well, you know, like Henry Hill's
Oh yeah.
as from what we've seen in Goodfellas or what we've read
Mhm.
from Henry Hill as well. But yeah, to
Well,
be
he is a bit of an embellisher, though, dude. I mean,
mm,
I'm not saying that stuff wasn't true. I mean, but I think he definitely embellished it.
yeah, I mean it has to be, doesn't it, to make a good story, to make it
Right.
exciting and timely
Right.
and yeah,
Anyway,
interesting. To
good
make the
stuff.
money, to make the money.
Yes,
Yeah.
true. Okay, so here's a really crazy thing. So they had that shooting in Texas, right? Literally, like the day after, we got a message to the parents of American High School, which is where my daughter goes in Fremont, that some 17-year-old had put on social media he wanted to shoot some school employee and was, doing. And so they ended up taking him in. Couldn't find a gun, but but here's the weird thing about it. So like they confronted him, or they contacted him and his parents. Like, what the frick are the parents thinking at this point? It's like, what the heck? It's like, did you know? Did you not know? It's just like, I don't know. It's crazy. So what's the viewpoint from your guys' side of the pond?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because any sort of opinion, you don't want to step on people's toes, and there's very strong opinions either way. I mean,
Yes.
first of all, what an absolute tragedy! Like, just unbelievable loss of innocent lives, like just horrible. So that's
10-year-olds.
that's just disgusting. Like, and as a father of like two young daughters, like if something like that happened, whoa, I would
can't
be
even imagine it, right?
destroyed. No.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the reason I brought it up was, so so this happened, and you're, I don't know, in England somewhere, like freaking miles away, right? So yeah, it freaks you out, and you're kind of like, yeah, but it's so far away, right?
Well,
But you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So then now this happened, and then we get this exact, like, so it's like, it's literally in our backyard, this situation that happened. So I mean, so we've had like these things happen, on the East Coast, right, or whatever, maybe it's Texas, whatever. So it's there, but it's far, right? And then like a possibility of it, and then you're just like, holy crap, because you're right, I couldn't even imagine having to go through that.
I mean, we had something very similar a couple of months ago here, only it was with a shotgun. And so it was this guy who was he had like mental health issues. It was down in Bristol, I think. It was like the south of England. And this guy was doing podcasts or talking, and had a YouTube channel. And he said he was talking about how he felt, and he's like an incel, and he felt like, I think this is like during the lockdown, during the pandemic, just as things were starting to open up again. He said, I just feel no emotion for anybody, and I feel like the Terminator. And that's what he was labeled as afterwards, that he felt like he could just do something like that. Literally the next day, or later that day after that video was put up, he went out onto the street and he shot like a 6-year-old kid or a 5-year-old kid, and loads of people, just anybody who was in their garden, getting out of their car, just walking down the street, just blowing people away. And I think the police killed him, or he killed himself in the end.
Yeah, it's a very suicidal thing to do, right? I mean, either you're going to get killed, or you're going to do it. They usually end up killing themselves, with maybe good justice. But
I think the difference here is that over here, the sort of the guns that are accessible in this country are shotguns, because it's farmers who have them. So handguns are like completely pretty much banned. They have to be like a 6-shooter, like a very large handgun.
So you bring up a good point, and this is, as you mentioned, it's a sensitive topic. But here's the really weird thing: how do you measure accurately the slippery slope, right? So this is the argument on the gun side. If you ban assault weapons, or you ban these certain things, then it's going to quickly go to everybody's guns will be removed, right? Which is a bit nutty in a way, right? I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. However, let's take another look at this, and you think about, I was just having this conversation with somebody about like fake news. The moment you start putting that out there, it automatically is gone now to like, nobody believes anything. You know what I'm saying? So that slippery slope was fast, right? So I mean, that's kind of a weird connection, but what I'm saying is that there's this argument, and I get it, that you can have this authoritarian takeover of stuff if you start here and you chip away, so you start. So this is the argument, like as we talked about before, like abortion, right? If you take abortion rights away, then the next are maybe LGBT or whatever. That there's this correlation, connection of connecting dots, which could be true, maybe not, right? That's the thing that's weird, because what makes no sense is here there's something like 90% of people believe they should have these background checks. And the gun enthusiasts or pro-gun or whatever, actually a lot of them believe it, but like the politicians won't do it because their base absolutely like, you do that, we're all taking all of our guns. You know what I'm saying? They make this leap.
But they should call their bluff. The politicians should be brave and call their bluff, because like, you know, you have to have a background check here. So you become a member of a gun club here in this country. My wife and I did shooting before we moved down here. We were both members of a gun club, and we went around and we were instructed, and you know, we bought a set of earmuffs and did the shooting while we were there, and those guys had their guns. But if we wanted to own a gun of our own, the police has to come around and check that we have a specific lockbox in the property, and that the ammunition is stored separately from the gun. You know, and you have like a background check that's done as well. Now, if you have never committed a crime, as most of these young people haven't probably,
the
background check isn't going to do anything. It's the same with
it might delay, right? Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is saying is it makes it not okay. If this is an 18-year-old kid who can't buy a beer, right? And he walks in and he got an AK-15 with like 347 rounds
like an
of ammunition,
AR-45, wasn't it? AR-45
or whatever. Yeah, I mean, my whole point is,
I don't think an 18-year-old kid should be allowed to buy like
exactly. If you can't trust them with, you know, a beer, right? How can you trust them with a gun, right? So
I think you should be 25 at least, or I think you should have. I think in order to get a gun, you should have served in the military. Like, so I think if you, as a way to sort of not have national conscription, but if you are a gun enthusiast and if you're interested in that, cool, come and join the army. We'll get you disciplined and we'll show you how to use a gun. We'll get you signed off on how to safely do that. You do.
It has to be a process to do it. You're right. It has to be very much a process, because they're like, well, you know, cars kill, you know, so many people more than guns, right? But the truth is, but then they're also bringing this value of not like removing people's lives, right? And you have to get a license to do it. You have to learn how to do it, and you have to get a license before you can actually do it. So I don't know. I don't get the argument. So can you get the argument on the other side? That's the thing.
Because I don't think that argument is valid, that comparing a gun to a car, because it's so easy to pick up a gun and fire it. It's not that easy if you don't know how to drive a car, especially I think in America maybe most of your cars are automatic. Is that right? Is that fair to say? So perhaps they're a little bit easier to get into. Like over here, the majority of our cars are all what you guys call driving by stick, so gear shifting. So if you don't know how to drive and you can't control the clutch, good luck running.
Right.
Yeah, good luck.
But I mean, so my point is that, you know, because I try to do this, and a lot of people don't, right? Because nobody critically thinks anymore. So before, of course, I have my own reaction and I have my own gut sort of reaction to it. But then I always try to like, okay, so where are these people coming from that are not something I get, right? So I think this is, you know, because I think if you are ever going to come together, you have to begin to understand the other side, right? So obviously we understand our side and we seem to be aligned. The question then is, how do we try to, so how can we understand their point, right? So, you know, I'm not saying that we agree with it, but I'm just saying you've got to be able to understand, right? And so I'm just trying to think about, you know, what is the validation that you can come up with and think that this is, you know,
I think
that you still need this many guns.
I think they love freedom, and they love America, and they love to have they love the Constitution, and they love their country, and they feel that it's right for them to own those things. And also, most of those people, probably all of, if not almost all of those people who own those guns and who are gun enthusiasts, don't go committing crimes with the guns. That's the thing. Like they're, you know.
But here's the thing. So here's the thing. The data doesn't back up their concern. So take this. During the Obama administration, gun sales went off the roof. I mean, so because he's going to take the guns away, which by the way, in 8 years he never did. Okay, so you've got like this person that you're afraid of. You got way more. There's over 400 million guns in this country. So
Mad.
Are you honestly, even if they started to try to take the guns away, they could never do it, right? Why are you
Yeah.
worried about that? It makes no sense. And
I,
where can you look back in time and say, well, look at this. This is when it happened, and therefore I'm worried about it. Your fear is of something that has never had a precedence, and that's odd to me.
I guess another thing that is interesting to think about is that America so far, you know, and hopefully it never happens, has never been invaded by another country. But if it
Not invaded. The only thing that we ever had was the 9/11 that was an
yeah,
actual,
and
We
Pearl
did a lot
Harbor.
of invading. That's how we
Sure.
got the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean,
We were invaded, back in the 60s with the British, rock and roll music stuff, there, Beatles
yeah.
and all that
But
crap.
even,
There's a lot of invading going on there.
before then, I mean, God rest King George. You know, you bastards drove him mad. Like the guy lost his mind because America to him was a beautiful lady that was stolen away from him by goddamn
we instilled
patriots.
him.
Yeah. So taking into account the historical factor of like fighting off the British or the French or both, and then there's sort of the cultural impact of having cowboys and that kind of cultural phenomenon out in the West and the South of North America. You know, guns are an intrinsic part of your culture, and they're a part of your freedom as well. And so is hunting. You know, it's a brilliant pastime, but it's become intoxicated, or like the apple cart has become poisoned by these incel weak men who sit on the internet, validate each other, hate the world because they're not worthy to go out and to make something of themselves, and they blame everybody else for their problems except themselves, and they don't do anything for it to fix it themselves.
Agree.
So
you're right. That's the crux of the matter. That is the true. You're right. These are people that are mentally unhinged and in a place that, and you're right, that's not your average gun owner. So the question is, what do you do though to try to somehow, I mean, you're right. I mean, guns don't kill people, people kill people. I get that, right?
I think
it's just the magnitude of what you can do, the damage you can do. I get, like we talked about that before, like, the Second Amendment, they had muskets back in that day. It literally, for you to kill as many people as fast as this guy did, you would have had to at least have like 40 people with these muskets at one time shooting the.
It would have been
people.
Like an army, wouldn't it? And plus an army,
it would have to be.
It's just, I think one of the solutions is that if people want to fire those semi-automatic or automatic weapons, that those weapons should only be accessible in gun clubs. You should never be allowed to
that
own
makes
them.
sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And you can go off and do where you want. You can set up like some place that you can go around and shoot them.
Yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea. That's maybe a good business.
Yeah, so
set up a place where you can go and then just shoot these things.
Yeah, like don't let normal civilians, normal people own those particular kind of guns, but don't stop them from using them. So you have them in special places, in gun clubs, or in the army or the military.
Right, but and it totally makes sense. Here's the problem with that. Number one, and this is one of the arguments, is that you can't, the black market and criminals are going to get these things anyway. Okay, so that's going to happen. The second thing is there are a lot. Didn't I mention 400 million horses that have run out of the barn?
Yeah.
And Paul wants to close the barn door. What are you going to do? How do you get those 400 million? It's just so far down the road and growing.
You have an amnesty. You buy them back from the people.
They tried that.
Yeah.
Not everybody. That's good. So you take, so it goes from 400 million down to 398 million.
Yeah. It's
tough.
Yeah, it's.
I expected you to solve this, man. I'm just like really. I mean, you saw Jesus in your dreams, and you can't solve the world's
I think
problems.
we're getting there. So first off, no more sales. So everybody who's got them already, they can keep them for now. Okay. And anything that is like a revolver or a shotgun or needs to be reloaded like quite, frequently, that isn't automatic or semi-automatic, you can go nuts with those. Have those as much as you want, because even if another guy has got an automatic and he's committing a crime, you've still got a chance. You can still put one in him, like, if you're careful enough.
Can still put one in. You gun
Yeah.
people, like, you just have these terms. Whips out that term.
Still blow him
You can
away.
put one in them.
Yeah. One of my students told me a naughty joke the other day. So he said to the other guy, he said, your mum's gone through more bullets than 50 Cent, meaning the vibrators.
Man.
That's what he said.
Oh man.
What,
how old is these students?
They're 18, 17.
Okay, 18. Yeah. Okay, good. So you were teaching the older kids.
No, I didn't teach him. I teach those older kids, but yeah, he was teaching me. They teach me things all the time.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
I'm sure of
crazy.
it.
Crazy. I don't know.
At least the lingo and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what we do about the gun situation. I don't think there's any easy situation, any easy solution. I think there has to be a combination of different things, and I think that people have to be willing to give a certain aspect of that hobby or that pastime up. I mean, all you're doing is asking to claw back a piece of technology, aren't you? You're asking to kind of claw back an advancement. But like you say, once that genie's out of the bottle, how do you do that? That'd be like asking people to give up the internet now.
Yeah. So one thing I always thought was, so you have all these gangs, right, in the city and stuff, and fighting over turf. I always thought, like, why don't you just, like, round them up, drop them in some place like, I don't know, Liberia or wherever they're, Syria or whatever. You want to fight? Here's a war. Go fight.
They'll probably do
I think
very
it would
well.
change their mind really quick, because all of a sudden it's like, real battle. You may not really want to be in real battle. It may seem all,
Have you seen the movie Battle Royale?
Oh no, is that with the poor missus?
So that's a Japanese movie. Okay, so in the early 21st century or late 20th century, the premise is that all young people in Japan are maniacs. Like, they're impossible to teach, which is, we're almost there.
We're moving there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they're impossible to teach. There's no discipline. So basically the government said, right, we've had enough of this. Like, crime is out of control. The education levels are really low. We're going to implement this thing called Battle Royale. So they randomly select students from different schools, and they take a whole year group and they drop them on an island.
Nice.
And they have to kill each other, and the last one who gets off is the winner of that year's Battle Royale. So this is like from the 80s or something, so it's years before Hunger Games, which I think is kind of based
similar to that kind of idea,
sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, you could do that, but then it's tricky, isn't it? There's another cultural difference that we've got, where we haven't had the death penalty in this country since the early 70s. I think 1971 was the last time that they hung somebody here. And in some states in America, you guys have still got that. And we used to use Australia as a place to dump our criminals.
This is true.
So it'd be cool. Like, let's find an island somewhere in the middle of the Pacific, and all of the world's countries just take all of their undesirables and just drop them there. Boom. Let them sort it out themselves.
You could do that. Do that. It could be interesting.
That's crazy sci-fi talk. That's
sci-fi. All right, crazy sci-fi talk. So you wanted to talk about Amber and Johnny.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
I want to talk about is it Camille or Camilla, the Johnny's lawyer? She's amazing. I think she's in love with Johnny Depp. Honestly,
aren't there a lot of people there?
Good.
Really?
Yeah, but she just rips she knows how to push Amber's buttons. Amber Heard gets triggered so easily by this Camilla. Yeah.
Smart.
What do you think about that situation?
You know, I have to admit that I'm not following it as much as maybe other people are. I'll see
Mm,
bits and pieces and little things like this. I don't know. It's one of those things that I think just by a quirk of jurisdiction, it was in a court that allowed it to be filmed. So I don't know. It's a lot of dirty laundry. I don't really have any stake in any of those
yeah.
people. Not really a large amount of caring. It sounds like they were both pretty much a little bit off the top, but I think also relationships are difficult,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
sure, maybe there's is extraneous to that. But I don't know what to make of it, to be honest with you. What's your feeling?
Well, I mean, we've both been around a little bit, you know. I don't know about your
You
personal life.
especially.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I like to think of myself in my 20s and 30s as a bee floating nicely from flower to flower, probably too frequently. The flowers were getting jealous. But yeah, relationships, like you say, they can be difficult, and the biggest problem is communication, generally, and expectation.
Mhm.
And when you mix drugs and alcohol and infinite cash into that, I can only imagine that those troubles
Only
magnify.
gets worse.
Yeah. So yeah, I know, like Amber kind of, she reminds me of an ex-girlfriend that I had a really bad time with. So I'm kind of really biased because she gives me PTSD vibes. And I kind of, I've always liked Johnny Depp as an actor and personality. So I really, I've been watching it in the hope that I would see a different side of Amber Heard, and so far, I've been watching it very closely this week. I'm not convinced by her, and I
Mm.
and I think that I hope that the jury doesn't find in her favor, because she's suing him, or her countersuit is for $100 million, whereas his initial suit against her
It's
is
50.
50 million. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how this plays out. It's interesting. Yeah,
I,
well, I think bottom line is uh, it's gonna be interesting. They both obviously, suffered something from
yeah.
this whole situation, because they're both probably not hireable at this point. Who knows? Maybe Johnny Depp may still be. I don't know, but her, I don't know. But on one side, but then on the other side, maybe this will bring them back into the thing. And so
I,
I think for her, problem with her, I think, is that whole thing is the only image you have of her is pooping in a bed, right? And I think that's a little bit harder than all the other stuff to kind of get over. And
yeah.
yeah, I think she did come across, right, wrong, or indifferent, as a lot more lying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is, I guess, was what's saying. I mean, you've been watching it more than me, so you have more
Yeah,
of a.
she seems really manipulative and disingenuous, and also trying to manipulate the truth, and also never taking accountability for anything. It was always somebody else's issue or somebody else's fault, um, which is just not reality. Like, if you're a real person, real people do make mistakes, and you would, in that situation, you would come to a point where you'd say, yeah, he's bad. Maybe sometimes I, did this or said this, and that made the situation worse or not. I don't know. It's really awkward. But the pooping of the bed, he's not unique to her, actually. I have a story about this. So I was going out with a girl for a long time, about, I don't know, 3.5 years or 4 years, and I lived in a house share up in Blackpool, and the relationship was like coming to an end. And sometimes at the end of a relationship, you get these late night calls, and I wasn't available for that late night call. And when I came back the next day, somebody had been, I'm just going to say somebody had been in our backyard, and somebody had taken a massive shit on the doorstep of the back door, and used one of the housemates' t-shirts and clothes to wipe their backside and then left. And
Oh
this
my
is around
God.
about the exact time that I was being called and texted, and so this
Oh
person was
my
there.
God.
And yeah, so it's not unheard of, like for
Yeah,
a lady
I
to
get
do
it.
such a thing.
Maybe not. Yeah, certain things can go certain ways, but so I think so
Classy
when, by the way,
ladies.
exactly. When, by the way, is this all wrapped up? I mean, where are they at on that? Because I haven't been
They
watching
they
it as
they're
much.
wrapped today. So
Okay, that goes
they
to the jury.
yeah, so it went to the jury yesterday. Jury started
Mm.
deliberating today. All of the cases and questions and the back and forth ended
And
yesterday.
they deliberate both. They're deliberating the
Yeah,
defamation and then the counter.
yeah, very
Interesting.
exciting. Very exciting. I didn't want to get sucked into it. I avoided it for weeks, but like the past sort of week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, has been I've been watching it like
So
nonstop.
so
Definitely
so
this week.
in sort of summarized, capsulated version, what do you think really happened? I mean, what really? See, I mean, she was lying, he was lying, he wasn't lying, she was, blah blah blah. But what exactly do you think happened? She did defame him,
Yeah,
she or
yeah,
something
she
like
did.
that, and therefore she has no reason to defame him. Or I mean, I don't kind of understand. So whether she defamed him or not should be pretty easy to kind of pull out. Whether all this other stuff, what does all this other stuff have to do? It was an
Well,
abusive relationship, but that doesn't mean you can defame somebody,
yeah, I
right?
mean
Or
that.
am I missing it?
Well, there's the old adage, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." Yeah,
This is
so
true. Mm-hmm.
when they, and especially, can you imagine the fury of a woman as beautiful as her? Like the pretty ones generally they can be nasty. Like, not to make a massive generalization, but
That's a pretty massive generalization.
that
Yes,
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that. But
I think you get a lot of hate for
a
that, dude.
lot of hate. I take it back. Ugly girls can be bitches too.
This is true. This is true. This is true. I think that I think, yeah, I always think this is interesting. Like when people break up, right? There's always a two sides to a story, right? What are you laughing about?
Because I'm so cancelled.
So it's funny. People will always like talk about how this person's so bad. This and that. It's like, yeah, but you were in this, right? I
Yeah,
think you have to. A healthy thing is to be able to um, realize your part. Otherwise, you're just going to repeat it with somebody else.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it takes two to tango, and I'm sure that. I mean, we there was a clip of him where they were having an argument, and she looked like she was setting him up. You see, she wanted some sort of evidence. She kind of hid the camera on the kitchen counter, and then she was saying things, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he was kind of drunk, intoxicated, what it looked like, and he was rummaging around the kitchen for something, and then he was like slamming kitchen cabinet doors and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was kind of saying, "Oh, Johnny this, Johnny that," and he was like, "Oh, you meant to tell me or whatever if you went off to Coachella for the weekend or whatever." I think maybe he wanted to go with her or something, and she just kind of left. And then he said, "You want crazy? You want to see crazy?" And then he pours like a full bottle of wine into a glass, and then he's like, "Right, I'm gonna," he's gonna drink that, and then he notices the phone that's recording him, and he sees it, and he grabs it and he snatches it, and then she's like, "No, no," she's trying to get it, and then
Uh-huh.
obviously there's a bit of a struggle for the phone, and then he goes, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
you're a fucking bitch!" Like he takes it and he throws it on the floor,
Uh-huh.
but then she picks it up and she looks into the phone, and she's got this really dirty smirk on her face, like, "Yes, I got him." So that
Uh,
clip, she edited it. Well, she says that she didn't, but there's no way that it wasn't her, right? So she edited the clip so that it didn't look, there was nothing bad about her on this clip, but that it was just him being crazy. And she
uh,
sent it to TMZ. So
but then they showed the whole clip.
yeah, the TMZ guy was like, "Well, the clip that we were sent was edited, and here's the clip that you've got." So he testified. He was like, the only way that we would have got that clip is if it came from her, and also the clip was edited. And that like
Oh
blew
my
her out of the
God.
water. She was so annoyed. And there was loads of things like that. Like people came and testified on Johnny's behalf from different places that they went to visit. There was like a caravan place that they went to. They had like a big party. They closed it down, and he had like multiple guests there. And the owner of the park saw her becoming jealous, like, you know, fighting a little bit with him. And she said that on that night, Johnny went back to the caravan and trashed the whole thing. But the owner testified that the only thing that was broken was like a little light fitting that, you know, somebody could have just bumped into. And that was literally the only thing. And he said that that happens quite frequently as well, that these light fittings are fragile and they break anyway. And he testified that Johnny was like a sweetheart all night, and that she was the one who was like being a viper. And
Oh my God. So how could she even win, right? I mean,
I
that's
don't,
the, you know,
I
and
don't
did
think
she
she can.
actually think she was going to be able to get, what about, I've heard like her lawyers are not as sharp as the one that you're in love with on Johnny's
No,
side.
yeah, I don't think they are. I don't know. They seem to be struggling, and with the questioning, they're not as
Maybe it's because
good
they
as
ain't
some of
got
the help.
anything good to, you know,
Yeah,
to work with. But then I
she,
think a really good lawyer doesn't matter, right?
yeah, she always claims as well that she's got a mountain of evidence against him, but then it's just not there. Like it wasn't there.
Yeah, and
So
it's tough too because I'm sure in the relationship it was volatile, right? And
yeah,
so,
they were
you know,
both
it can be
recording each other.
interpreted. You know, they were both like, you know, off the charts and
Yeah,
just that who they are.
like if you're in a relationship with somebody where you're both recording each other using your mobile
Yeah, what's
phones,
up with all these recordings? I mean, there's a bit of a trust issue.
yeah, like if you don't trust somebody, just get out. Like it's not worth it. I mean, if
Yeah.
I was Johnny Depp, I'd just be like, nah, Amber, this isn't working out. I'm
Yeah, it's
gonna,
not working. I mean, what is the connection? There's must be
yeah.
something there, you know.
Well, she's younger than him and she's hot, so I mean that's and obviously he's a lot richer and more famous than she was, so
Right.
yeah, it's kind of one of those.
And she was dating somebody else, wasn't she? She was like pretty well known or
I
something.
think she had girlfriends before. Yeah,
Oh,
she kind of swapped back for a bit.
I see.
Um,
Crazy, crazy. Well,
but
you know, we entertain you, man. That's what I have to say. America
yeah,
entertains you.
and you know, I think we're going to entertain you soon because next week it's the Her Majesty the Queen's
That's
70th Jubilee,
that's
70 years on
right.
the
That's
throne.
right. That's right.
So Thursday and Friday next week is a bank holiday here.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah,
Nice.
which
At
is
least you get time
amazing.
off. That's good.
Yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, the whole place is decorated, like the whole country, wherever you go, wherever you see, it's like there's flags everywhere. It's
Yeah,
really
it's one thing
nice.
we've never gotten. We never really got into the whole royal thing here in America.
Well,
We
it's
don't
your
need
own
we don't
fault.
do it. Well, we don't need to because we've got like, you know, Johnny Depp's and Amber Heard's and things like
Yeah,
that. That's really what
and The
our
Rock.
royalty kind of does, and The Rock, right, and Schwarzenegger and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
so we just never had that fiefdom kind of thing going on.
Do you think that when The Rock's acting career starts to slow down, that he'll go into politics the same way that Schwarzenegger did? Because he would be eligible to become president, wouldn't he?
If he was born and raised here, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Hawaii, so
I don't know if they ever. I mean, Obama was from Hawaii too, and that was always, you know, somewhat skeptical from the Trump dude. But you know, I don't know. I don't. I guess it's possible now because it seems like actors are what we get anyway. But
you had
I don't know.
Reagan.
I think he's just financially in a place. I think he'll just continue to keep doing what
Mm.
he's doing. I also don't know that actors are
The
the right
best people
people
for
for
the
the
job.
politicians. And why would you want to?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the other thing. Why? That's why we've got such a crappy, you know, government. It's like good people don't go into government.
Mm.
It's like they go into private industry or something and they do something else. You know, they do businesses or they do other organizations. I just don't think you're going to get the cream of the crop people. And it's so, you know, the cycle is so short that you're constantly spending most of your time just campaigning to win again. And I think this is a
Yeah.
problem.
that's something that was coming up on the Joe Rogan podcast, like in a couple of episodes ago, like this week. He was talking about, obviously you've got Putin, who has been president slash dictator, whatever, for over 20 years now. And then you've got Xi Jinping in China, who is president for life. So he's not going anywhere. And, you've got these people in these fairly stable countries, especially China, with the growth that it's had under under their regime. Is a 4-year term any good anymore, or do we?
Well, it's 4 years for the president and it's 6 years for the Senate, right?
Yeah.
I think it's okay to have that length of term, but then I think you have to have term limits. I think what's more important is term limits.
Yeah.
Like you do have it for the president. You can only do 8 years, right? You can only win twice. But I think the problem is the Senate. The Senate, they've like, I mean, these people have been in there frickin' for decades.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good.
No. Yeah, like Pelosi's
And the Supreme Court too. I mean, that's a lifetime. Now that, I think what's happened with the Supreme Court is, I think it was fine in the past, but now that it's become so political, so much more political, and it's no longer a separate body, then I think you have to have term limits.
You know what I find odd about American police work, and this only kind of came to me the other day. I was watching Open Range or something like that, some Beyond the Range, or some crazy sci-fi show on Amazon with Josh Brolin in it, and the sheriff in that show was coming up for election, and you guys, is that the same all across America? You vote for your police people, for your police leaders, your sheriffs?
I think only for the, I don't know about the sheriff. I knew you do. I think that not like the sheriff. You do for like the district attorney, and you do for yeah. There is certain elected officials, but not most of them. So
right.
Yeah,
that's weird, because like we don't have that here, because that's all done as a meritocracy over here. So basically, you would start off as either an officer in the police force, or as a general PC. That's what they call them up here, a police constable, and then work your way up and through the ranks. And so by the time you get to being a superintendent, or like a commander in the police force, you've got a lot of experience under your belt, like, and you're not open to corruption in the same way that I could see that somebody being voted in or relying on votes could be exposed to favors and corruption and stuff like that. That seems odd.
Yeah, so this is the typical thing for Americans, is we probably don't know our system as well. We usually have to go to Europeans and have them explain. So you may know better than I do, but I don't think we vote for those people. And this is a problem.
Yeah. That's the way it was put across, and I thought, oh yeah, like that is something that they do, that their sheriffs or whatever are voted for. And maybe it's just small communities. Maybe it's like,
maybe it's the small communities. I don't think it's in the. I think they're like internally elected or something,
okay.
and promoted or whatever, as far as I know. But certain things, I don't think like do the mayors and the governors actually do they actually maybe they pick and sign, and then it becomes political in that sense, right?
Mayors over here is mostly just a ceremonial role. They don't actually have any power whatsoever. Only if you're a mayor of a metropolitan area. So like the mayor of London, very powerful. The mayor of Manchester, very powerful. But like the mayor of like King's Lynn or the local town, he's just a guy who like goes and opens things. Like he has no power. Like he just...
No, I think there's a lot of power in local. That's why they were saying the local. That's why that's why what the Republican party's done much better than the Democrats is they, so you have the upper level kind of the Y general, but what they've been doing is actually placing in governors all through and that local thing is what, just because they're the ones that end up doing everything. Because remember, the state the federal has an overview, but the states also have a lot of power individually, and they can do what the heck they want, as long as it doesn't, such a conflict of federal. But
it's kind of the opposite.
that's
it's kind of the opposite. So here we have local government, and they're called councils. So we have a local council, and they generally they gather local taxes. They call it council tax. So every month or every year you have to pay a certain amount for owning. It's like property tax. So for a house my size, we pay probably £1,300 a year. So about £120 a month. Yeah, and that goes towards the fire brigade and the police. And,
right. Same as us, property, but it's not that
street
low.
lights and garbage and stuff like that. And it goes to like the upkeep of the town. But they have a control of what goes on in this local area, but they are at the will of central government, and everything happens like from central government. And we have what's called members of parliament, or MPs, and they have their own constituency that they're responsible for. So if you have a problem that like a council wasn't doing a job properly, or like there was some issue that you had locally that wasn't being sorted out, you can go to your MP and then he'll voice that. Or if it's like a national issue, he'll go and tell the Prime Minister, and they hash that out in the House of Commons. Then that's where they make their laws. And then once they all vote for stuff in the House of Commons, then it will go through to the House of Lords, which is like your Senate, or your your upper house. And then they vote on it as well, and they say whether it goes ahead or not.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot more local. Of course, a bigger country, right? So it's kind of a little bit harder to control if you don't have that local capability. But it's also the same. I mean, obviously, somebody running a smaller township or something is not going to be the same as LA or New York or Chicago or something like that. Yeah.
So, do you live? I don't want to give away your address or anything like that, but do you live in California, or do you live like down? Do you live?
I live in Silicone Valley.
Okay, so no, you're not near like San Francisco, for example.
Not too far, about 45-minute drive. Yeah.
So, do you ever go down there? Like, because would you be
very rarely? It's kind of those things, we don't really. It's kind of weird, when I used to live in LA, I actually used to live like 2 blocks from the beach when I was living in Santa Monica, and we never went to the beach. And then we moved to West LA, which was like maybe, I don't know, 2 miles away or something, and we went to the beach all the time. So I think it's like one of those things that like when it's close to you, you just don't do it. So and it's kind of a pain to go into the city because it's really hard to drive there. The parking is really expensive. It's difficult. It's a little bit sketch, right? There's good parts about it, and there's not so great parts about it. And as you get older, you're kind of like, it's not my scene.
Yeah, because do you know who Anton LaVey was?
No.
So Anton LaVey, he's dead now, but he lived in San Francisco. he lived in San Francisco, and he was the originator or the leader of the Church of Satan. And he had a house that was painted black in San Francisco.
Nice.
And I was like, if Jor Amster
doing that Rolling Stone thing, huh?
Yeah, like if you're not far from there, then maybe you could go get a picture of that house for me. I don't know. But there's a fascinating story. Do you know who Jane Mansfield was?
Yes.
The actress. Do you remember what happened to her?
She was killed, wasn't she, by the what's his name? Charlie Manson group, wasn't she?
No. Oh. So almost close. So Jane Mansfield was an actress who was famous for her big breasts, right? And she was very beautiful. And she got in with Anton LaVey and the Church of Satanism. And so they used to socialize a lot, and she would go around and she'd take part in ceremonies and stuff like that. And it's a very sexy cult that you'd be a part of. And at some point she changed her mind, and they had a falling out, and he put a curse on her, and she died. She was decapitated. She was in a car collision, and she went under a sign, and the sign took her head off in the convertible.
Wow.
And then when people asked Anton LaVey about it, are you upset? He said, no, that's what you get if you mess with me.
Wow,
How dumb is that?
crazy. Oh boy. And on that note, I think we
Yeah.
should stop today. Well, cool, man. First oath under the belt. So you had a couple people that or one or two people or something you were going to invite. I think we should do friends of oath.
Yeah. Yeah, we should. Who yeah, do you think we killed the oath this week? Did we kill it?
Kill it by what?
Yeah, so do you imagine, you know what an oath is?
Yes.
Like a gross, that thing.
Right. A big
The
old
oath.
oath. Like
Yeah,
a
so
yeah.
did we kill it with our words? Did we
I
destroy it?
think we slayed it.
I think we did. I think we crushed it. I don't
I think
think
we crushed it.
I don't think it's coming back. I don't think it's getting up after this week. I think
It's like a video game.
decapitated.
It's decapitated. There you go. Chop. Well, let's do this next time. Let's see if we can
Yeah,
get some people to tell us what to riff about, and then also maybe get somebody else on here too.
so
Make it.
the next, when do you want to oath next?
Well, I think one of the things that we can do is we can oath whenever, but
Yeah,
we should post it like every 2 weeks because
yeah,
otherwise
yeah,
it wouldn't be oath. But
yeah, okay.
yeah, maybe 2 weeks or maybe in a week. Let me see what's in 2 weeks. Let me look maybe my calendar up here.
Next Thursday and Friday is good for me, because it's the bank holiday. So
All
like,
right. Well, let's do next Friday then. That
okay,
sounds good.
okay,
Let's keep it going.
yeah,
And
that's the
then
third.
invite a friend if you like.
Let's do it.
We should come up with like, yeah.
Oh yeah, we were gonna get Thomas
Yeah, Thomas
Armitage.
somebody who I don't know.
Yeah, Thomas J. Armitage, the guy from New York. He's a lot of fun. Like, I think
All
you would
right, let's
really
do it.
like him. I think, in fact, you might like him more than you like me. Like, he's that likable.
It's probably not that difficult. I mean, the like meter is not that high up. Well, awesome, dude. Let's do that.
Okay,
That'll be fun.
I'll see if I can get him, because he's hilarious, and yeah, he's really cool. He's a very, very funny guy. And so, Jor Amster, it has been
Paul Powers.
an absolute
Powers
pleasure.
to you.
Powers to
All
you.
right. Have a good weekend, man.
You too. See you later, buddy.
Bye.
Oof.